Coming up on Sports Night.
Softball hosted 25th ranked Wisconsin at Drysdale Field.
The men's baseball team was in action against the Maryland Terrapins and the Notre Dame Fighting Irish.
Lacrosse faced off against a top-ranked team in the nation in Maryland.
We've got a packed show today, and would you look at the time? It's Sports Night right now. Welcome back to Sports Night. Pat, dude, we're live. Let's go.
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad.
Well, I mean, now you got to share. What's on your playlist?
The hottest on the streets, Lil Nas X with Billy Ray Cyrus, Old Town Road.
Dude, that's a banger. I mean, well, I can't tell you nothing, but I can tell you guys about baseball. The Northwestern men's baseball team entered this weekend's Big Ten action on fire, owning a 4-game winning streak and sporting a 4-2 record in Big Ten play. So with Maryland Terrapins in town, could the Cats keep it up? Let's find out. The Maryland Terrapins were in town this past weekend for a weekend series against those Wildcats. Both teams supporting a 500 record. This was a key matchup. Shout out DJ Khaled. Game 1, Northwestern's ace Quinn Lavelle struggled with his command, and the Cats fell behind 4-0 after the first 2 innings. However, the Cats would mount a comeback, throwing a 6 spot on the board, only to eventually fall short 13-8. Games 2 and 3 were combined into a doubleheader on Saturday, and what a day of baseball it was. In Game 1, Northwestern jumped out to a quick 5-run lead on the back of Willie Bourbon's 4th home run of the season. From there, the game went back and forth as the Terps tied it going into the 7th inning stretch, only for the Cats to pull away, scoring 6 runs in the bottom of the 8th to win 13-7. And then the second half of that doubleheader, Game 3, it was all over the place, as the teams combined for 5 lead changes or ties before the Terps took the matinee 12-10. Highlights included an Alex Arrow RBI triple for the Wildcats and home runs from Benjamin Cowles and Justin Vaught. Next up for Northwestern is an away series against the Michigan Wolverines. After the weekend series against Maryland, the Wildcats took a trip out east to play Notre Dame for a little midweek baseball action. Alex Arrow showed out, going 2 for 4 with 6 total bases, including a solo homer. But it was not enough as Notre Dame came out swinging. Fighting Irish scored 4 of their 6 runs, the winning margin in the first 3 innings, before Jack Ziska iced the game with a 2-run triple in the 8th. The Cats bullpen pitched well, as relievers Danny Katz, Anthony Alipra, and Jack Pagliarini all put goose eggs on the board. However, in the end, it was not enough, as the Cats would fall 6-2.
One of the hottest teams on campus continued to get hotter as the softball team hosted the number 25 Wisconsin Badgers this past weekend. The Cats look to stay undefeated in the Big Ten play behind potential Big Ten Freshman of the Year candidate Danielle Williams. Cats warming up looking for the sweep against Wisconsin as we catch up with the action on Saturday. Top of the third, Kayla Cohn went with a smash down the third baseline, gets past Mac Dunlap at third, and Wisconsin is on the board first, leading 1-0. However, it did not take long for Northwestern to answer. Bottom of the same inning, Rachel Lewis sends that one out to right, back, and it's gone. Cats jump out to a 2-1 lead, but they were not done. 2 batters later, Maeve Nelson cranks one out to left field playing copycat with her 2-run homer of her own. 4-1 lead at the bottom of the third. Wisconsin would tie it up and we would go to extras. Morgan Nelson flies out to left and Lily Novak looking to tag it up to win, but the umpire calls her out. Coach Drohan is furious and she goes out to argue. Ultimately, the umps would get together and confirm the out, leading us to continue. To the 10th, however, Novak gets her revenge, puts it deep, and you can put it on the board. Yes! Sholo's shot to left center, and the Cats walk it off. Danielle Williams would go the distance, 10 innings, slinging 162 pitches.
Now joining me to break down some Northwestern softball is Benjamin Rosenberg of the Daily Northwestern. Benjamin, thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
So Ben, I mean, you've been the beat reporter for this team all season for the Daily. You've been in the locker room, right? You've been traveling with the team and talking to players, coaches. So what I want to ask you is, like, at what moment did you realize, like, wow, like this team is legit?
Well, I haven't been traveling with them that much, but it's been really interesting. They got off to a hot start, but they didn't really seem like they were playing to their potential. They didn't play as tough of a non-league pre-conference schedule as they did normally. They had a couple really tough losses. Oklahoma is the #1 team in the country, but they just obliterated them a couple times. Since then, Northwestern has lost only one game. They had a victory over an Indiana team that was ranked at the time. It didn't count as a conference game. And then since Big Ten play started, they've really taken off. Their first few series were against teams at the bottom half of the conference, but then when they swept Wisconsin, they've really now they're in sole possession of first place, and they're in the coaches poll for the first time. It's safe to say this team's for real.
And yeah, I mean, for real, you said it. This team is amazing. And I want to focus on two players that I agree and I think are amazing, Rachel Lewis and Danielle Williams. And I want to ask you, who do you think is more valuable to the success of this team?
I think it has to be Williams. In softball, it's one of the main differences between softball and baseball that I've noticed over the past couple years covering this team is one pitcher can really just work a ton and really carry a team for a long stretch. Williams has thrown more innings than Northwestern's other pitchers combined. In a 3-game weekend series, say it's a Friday, Saturday, Sunday series, she'll typically go Friday and Sunday. And so some of her numbers are just ridiculous. It's not an exaggeration to say that she's been one of the best pitchers in the country, not just the Big Ten. She leads the Big Ten in ERA and in strikeouts and in opponent's batting average. But I think she's thrown 5 shutouts already in conference play. Wisconsin hit her around a little bit. They were a tough offensive team, but before that, she came into that series having given up just 1 run in 39 innings against Big Ten opponents.
I mean, you talked about ridiculous numbers. This team has won 11 games in a row and 16 of the last 17 games dating back to mid-March. So, like, how good is this team really? What is their ceiling?
Well, I think they've really turned it into a 3-team race for the Big Ten title. They haven't won a conference title since 2008, but they're currently a half game ahead of Michigan, a game and a half ahead of Minnesota. They don't have that difficult of a schedule remaining until that last series. They play 3 games at Minnesota to close the regular season. So I think it probably comes down to that. Michigan has a bit of an easier schedule. They play the eastern side of the conference, which is not quite as tough. And then in terms of NCAA tournament, I mean, they're safe to make the tournament. They're in consideration definitely for hosting a regional, which would be a really nice thing for them to have. I think 2008 was also the last time they did that. That was also the last time they were in the Super Regionals. So I know the committee hasn't been all that kind in recent years to the Big Ten, but Northwestern's putting themselves in a position where they'll have to be considered for that.
Hey, so what I'm hearing is catch the chip, right? Benjamin, thank you so much for joining us here on Sports Night.
Yeah.
To hear and see more work from Benjamin and cover this Northwestern softball team, head over to thedailynorthwestern.com.
Don't get on your horse just yet. We've got plenty of Sports Night coming up.
At Northwestern, we're Wildcats in every way.
Go Northwestern, break right through that. With our colors flying, we will cheer you all the go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
At Northwestern University, we are pioneering innovation and achieving excellence across every imaginable discipline. At Northwestern University, the possibilities are endless.
welcome back to Sports Night. You know, Andrew, it's been great seeing all these newly admitted students on campus. Do you remember your day as a NU newly admitted student?
Well, you know what, Pat? I actually never went to my admitted students day, which is funny enough. But one thing I do always remember about being a high school senior hearing about Northwestern, it was Lakeshore Drive this, it was Lakeshore Drive that, right? It was Kanye this, Kanye that. I was just, what was the big deal? And then a few weeks ago, when I heard Old Town Road by Lil Nas X for the first time, all I could think of was Sheridan Road.
Me too. And you know, I thought about it this past weekend when women's soccer took on DePaul and Loyola in the Chicago Cup and the Battle of Sheridan Road. As we get ready for the action, they first faced off against DePaul. While they may have lost their first preseason matchup to the Mexico U20 national team, Northwestern was back on the pitch. The action started off Saturday morning at a beautiful, sunny Martin Stadium. And this would be the second tune-up match of the spring as the Cats prepare for next fall without the likes of Hannah Davison and Marisa Vigiano. The lone goal of the game would be scored by sophomore forward Kaylee Schultzman, and that's all the Cats would need to win in a game that finished 1-0. The second game of the day, the Cats took on Loyola Chicago University. What turned out to be an odd game, the final score was 0-0. Northwestern seemed to control possession, especially in the earlier part of the match, but it was not enough to bypass the Ramblers' midfield and put points on the board. The games played on Saturday were only 45 minutes instead of the usual 90 due to both teams being short players suffering from injuries. And despite the draw, the Cats were able to win the Chicago Cup based on their previous win against DePaul. The women's soccer spring schedule continues later this month when they take on DePaul in the annual alumni game here in Evanston.
Women's lacrosse has always been a powerhouse here at Northwestern, and this year has been no different. The team entered last week's 2 matchups versus top 10 foes, Maryland and Michigan, ranked in the top 10 themselves. So how'd they do? Let's find out. Mallory Wise making her first start in net as the Wildcats prepare to take on the Terps. Getting the scoring started is, who else? Selena Lasota's got goals in the back of her lacrosse stick, 1-0 Cats. Next up, draw control win for Northwestern leads to a deep pass to Izzy Skane, who retrieves the ball, and all of a sudden she starts moving downfield, surveying, and she finds Emily Stein for the goal. Cats up 3. Sun down in Evanston now, and Selena Lasota decides to put her head down, driving in and blasting one past the Maryland keeper to extend the Cats' lead. Check this one out again. A little inside-out move, then a jump fire goal. There's a reason why she's Northwestern's all-time leading goal scorer. Maryland on the attack now. And oh man, I cannot believe my eyes, Mallory Weiss. The senior goalie blocks 2 shots, one and then the other, and Northwestern holds on defensively. But on this next Maryland possession, their ball movement is just too precise and it's too good. Erica Evans scores for Maryland and the game is tied at 7 going into the half. Free position shot now as we enter the second half for Selena Lasota, and come on now, you already know, just like Alex Ovechkin in his office, there's no stopping that one. Cats back on top, but everything Lasota can do, Evans can do as well, as Maryland's second leading goal scorer ties the game once again. But with the Cats looking to strike back, they instead got hit with a lightning strike, and the game gets moved indoors. And once they went inside, there's been no official footage of what went down, but according to NU Athletics, Maryland pulled away to win 17-13. Our very own Jack Leto, happy birthday by the way, was at this week's lacrosse media availability to ask head coach Kelly Monte-Hiller some pressing questions.
We were pretty proud of our effort, but we didn't close the game, so we were pretty disappointed in that. They got a few draw controls, few possessions right off the bat, and they were able to get a score or 2 right off the beginning, and we kind of just lost a little bit of confidence, and they were able to close it out. It was a little bit disappointed, but hopefully we've learned a lot from that experience, and we know we need to play every single moment, not just 50 minutes, we need to play 60.
In a highly anticipated matchup that wrapped up just a few hours ago, the number 7 Wildcats defeated the number 6 Michigan Wolverines by a score of 14-11 at Martin Stadium. a definite defensive battle. The game was tied going into half at 5-5. Selena Lesota scored twice in the first half and got some big-time help on the Lakeville, as Jill Girardi, Izzy Skane, and Claire Quinn all got on the board. Second half was enthralling to say the least. Back and forth the two teams went as the Cats scored the first 2 goals of the second half, but the Wolverines scored 5 of the next 6 to take a 10-8 lead with just 11:52 to go. But then the Cats decided to take the game over offensively, scoring 5 goals by 5 different players, including Lesota and Skane again, and eventually won 14-11.
With us here today is WNUR Sports Insider Zach Coons. Zach, it's a pleasure to have you on the show today.
It's a pleasure to be here, Pat.
Now let's get down to business. You were on the call for that Maryland Northwestern game when the Cats fell 17-13. It was a tie game with 12 minutes left, but the Cats were outscored 6-1 to end the game. What do they need to do differently to close out close games like this?
Well, obviously, Pat, it was an incredibly wacky game, moving inside to Ryan Fieldhouse from being outside at Martin Stadium. So I think the team kind of came out flat after that short break. It was about 42 minutes where the two teams weren't able to get back in the action, and then moving inside, Northwestern really struggled on the draw. Maryland was able to take over and win the battle in the draw circle and went on a 4-2 run in that position. And then down the stretch, the one-on-one defense for the Wildcats also seemed to falter. Carson Copeland and Kate Copeland have been so great all year long, and unfortunately, Maryland kind of used their athleticism. They have a lot of depth. That's why they're one of the best teams in the country. And Northwestern, unfortunately, just couldn't keep up on the defensive side of the ball, wasn't able to convert offensively, and unfortunately the rest of the game didn't go so well for the Cats.
And tonight marked the last home game of this regular season as they took on Michigan. They were able to come out with the win, but as we mentioned earlier, it was tied 5-5 at half, and the game finished 14-11. What happened in that second half that led the Cats pull away?
Very similar game to the Maryland game. It was incredibly physical between these two teams. A lot of no calls between Michigan and Northwestern. Northwestern was able to get a lot of those calls in the first half. Some really great play again from Mallory Weiss. She now has 24 saves in 2 games and seems to be the hot hand for the Cats going forward. But you mentioned that second half. Northwestern turned the ball over 12 times in that first half, an almost unheard of number for Kelly Amante-Hiller's squad. But moving forward into the second half, only turned the ball over 9 times. Michigan really struggled to control the ball on the offensive side. And then, of course, down the stretch, Michigan had 3 straight possessions with 3 straight turnovers, and Northwestern was able to capitalize on every single one of those. Got some great production from Lauren Gilbert down the stretch to help out Selena Lesota. Lesota was able to break the all-time career goals record as well for the Wildcats, and she now stands alone at 256 career goals. It was a great team effort, and I think really solidified this Northwestern home season.
As we look to the Big Ten tournament, what does this Cats team need to do to succeed in the postseason and potentially all the way to the national championship and win it?
The Wildcats, of course, have struggled in the postseason over the last couple years as they've kind of moved through. Kelly Amante-Hiller can't seem to get back to that Final Four that she wants so badly. The Wildcats haven't been since 2014. And I think the 2 positions that I've kind of brought up, the draw specialist position and Brennan Dwyer, she leads the Big Ten Conference currently in draw controls, and I think she needs to play very well down the stretch. And I think Northwestern needs to figure out exactly what they're doing at the goalkeeping position, who's going to get the start in the cage consistently. It seems like Mallory Weiss is the hot hand, so I wouldn't see why the Wildcats don't continue to go to her. But then also I think they need to win out on these last 2 regular season games that will give them the best seeding in the Big Ten tournament. They'll go in as the number 2 seed. And then, of course, moving towards the NCAA tournament, you'll also want to keep and get the best seed possible so that way you don't have to play against some of those top teams in the conference.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. I can't wait to see what the cross team has in store for us. And Zach, thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, Pat.
We have to take a break, but when we come back, we have even more non-revenue sports coming right at you. Don't go anywhere.
At Northwestern, we're Wildcats in every way.
Northwestern break right through that. With our colors flying, we'll be We will cheer you all the go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
At Northwestern University, we are pioneering innovation and achieving excellence across every imaginable discipline. At Northwestern University, the possibilities are endless.
Now, Andrew, did you catch up on the Masters this past Sunday?
You know, I did. I mean, I'm so happy for my guy Tiger Woods. The road to 19 is back on, and talk about a comeback.
Yeah, you're right. Probably the second best comeback in April, with the first going to Billy Ray Cyrus.
Of course, and here's a hot take. I think he takes the throne as the best Cyrus.
And the Northwestern men's tennis team was also on the hunt for the Big Ten throne earlier in the week. This past weekend, the Northwestern men's tennis team hosted a doubleheader at the Com Tennis Center, welcoming into the town the #1 ranked Buckeyes and the Nittany Lions of Penn State. Friday marked the start of the action, and it was all Buckeyes. They would take every game of the match except one, led behind top-ranked player in the nation, J.J. Wolf. Wolf would defeat Dominic Starry 6-2, 6-1 in straight sets, strike again in one doubles, winning his game with Martin Joyce versus Starry and Chris Efron. For the Cats, Chris Efron impressed by his first set, but he wouldn't be able to hold on as his game went to 3 and he would ultimately lose 3-6, 7-6, 1-0. The lone bright spot of the day happened in the #6 singles match when Jason Seidman picked up the victory against Hunter Tubit in 3 sets, 6-2, 3-6, 1-0. 2 days later, the Cats play #35 Penn State at the Com Tennis Center in Evanston. Looking to continue his success from earlier in the weekend, Jason Seidman was able to pick up another win, this time against Alp Sentai 6-4, 6-3. Junior Chris Efron said, "I'll match you 1 win, but raise you 1 set more," beating Gabriel Namath 6-4, 5-7, 6-1. Outside of the 2 Northwestern wins, Penn State dominated the rest of the match. They were led by the 37th ranked player in the nation, Constant de la Bassetière, as the senior Frenchman would win both his singles and doubles games against Dominic Starry. The men's tennis team will look to improve their conference record next weekend as they take on the Wisconsin Badgers and ranked #37 Minnesota Golden Gophers on the road.
The women's tennis team has been up and down all season, but with 2 high-profile Big Ten matchups on the docket this week, the Cats had a chance to reverse the ship. First up, Minnesota. Northwestern found themselves in a heavyweight fight up in Minneapolis. At #1 singles, Minnesota's Tina Kranis outlasted Clarissa Hand 3-6, 6-0, 6-3, but the Cats would rebound. Julie Byrne was able to recapture momentum for the Cats at #2 singles, where they win 6-3, 6-3, and Lee Orr took care of business at #3 singles, winning 6-4, 6-1. Heading into singles 4 through 6, Minnesota defended home court emphatically, and at #5 singles, River Hart of Minnesota held on in a 3-set thriller over Rhea Doshi to win 3-6, 6-3, 6-1. Over on the doubles side, however, the Cats clawed out wins at both #2 and #3. The tandem of Dorsey and Hand clinched the doubles point for the Cats, winning 7-5. It would not be enough, though, as the Golden Gophers held on for a narrow 4-3 victory. And now, on Wisconsin. This past Sunday afternoon, the Wildcats were once again in action in Madison, Wisconsin to take on the Badgers. Just like Minnesota, Northwestern's #1 and #2 singles both took care of business, as Clarissa Hand and Julie Byrne both won their matchups. However, the Cats got swept in doubles and only got 1 more win in singles from sophomore Incy Ogut, and that's not a recipe for success. The Cats would fall by a final score of 4-3. Northwestern returns home on Saturday, April 20th to host Ohio State at 11 a.m. Central.
Fencing ended their season in Salt Lake City at the USA Fencing Division I National Championships. Ella Lombard finished 21st in épée, the highest individual finish by a Wildcat. Lombard, Maggie Snyder, and Pauline Hamilton secured the team's best team finish with third place in the team women's épée. Individual in the women's foil, the Cats put forth two great competitors. Alyssa Chen went 4-2 in pool rounds and made it to the second round. Amy Jai went 1-4 in pool play, made it to the second round of elimination table, where she would fall to the eventual national runner-up Iman Blow. In the team foil competition, though, Chen, Jai, and first-year Jerica Lau placed 6th in the team's women's foil. Coached by Zach Moss, Wildcat Fencing will return next year, looking to win their third Midwest Championship title in a row.
The men's golf team was in West Lafayette, Indiana this past week for the final tournament of their 2019 regular season. However, the final round of the Boilermaker Invitational was canceled due to unplayable conditions. So as a team, Northwestern placed 4th after finishing the 36-hole day 6 under. Illinois State took home the team championship at 16 under. First-year David Niff-Yole finished with a share of 3rd place for Northwestern, marking the 3rd top 5 finish of his young collegiate career. And with the conclusion of the weekend, Chicago's Big Ten team will begin to prepare for the Big Ten championships on April 26th through 28th in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Before you get the tack on your horse, we've got Plays of the Week coming up right for you.
At Northwestern, we're Wildcats in every way.
Go Northwestern, break right through that. With our colors flying, we will cheer you all the go. Go you Northwestern, fight for victory, sweet victory, for the fame of our fair name, and go Northwestern, win that game. Go Cats!
At Northwestern University, we are pioneering innovation and achieving excellence across every imaginable discipline. At Northwestern University, the possibilities are endless.
So Pat, are you a fan of Gucci cowboy hats?
I am, and I do own a pair of Wrangler jeans. But you know what we've got? Plays of the Week.
At number 3, the GOAT of Lac, Selena Lasota, spins and scores versus Maryland.
Coming in at number 2 is the Performance of the Week. Danielle Williams versus Wisconsin. The 10 innings pitched, 3 longer than normal, 162 pitches and 12 Ks in the extra innings win.
And at number 1, diehard Cats fans, y'all know what's coming. Northwestern softball versus Wisconsin. Bottom of the 10th, senior Lily Novak at the plate. And that pitch is gone. Goodbye. Walk-off homer for the Cats. And the brooms are out as Wisco goes down in a sweep. Incredible weekend for the softball team in Evanston.
I don't know about you, Andrew, but I've ridden until I can't no more.
You're right, Pat. And I've got no stress, and we've been through all that.
And you're right, and that's all the time we have here today, folks. I'm Patrick Timlin.
And I'm Andrew Fenichel. And if you can take away one thing from our show, keep riding till you can't no more.